Good evening, fellow Americans. My name is Arash Shariari. We are in a very critical time in the history of our country as the son of the Satans trying to take over our country and destroy everything that we have attained throughout the course of the last 3 centuries or so. In this video, I want to talk about the tragic and disastrous handling of Trump of the COVID-19 pandemic that broke out throughout the 2019. And we want to go through this point by point so you can get a clear image of what a disaster this man is. So let's look at them from the very beginning. Now, part of what he has done recently, as the allegation has risen up against him, his investment records had to be exposed. And what we know is that he owns share in both Pfizer and Moderna and some other vaccine companies that ended up, creating the vaccine for U.S. government and people that, taking the tax money of the people and giving out 100 million doses of COVID vaccines to the people. If he actually owned this stock during his 2016 term, there's a good chance that he amassed a good fortune from the very people's tax money that went to his pocket. But that's something that, then again, I want to be as clear as possible. We don't know when he started owning these stocks. The timing is not clear. But what is clear is that while China went on to declare the pandemic in December of 2019, and the World Health Organization made a declaration in January, the denial of Trump about COVID could have saved millions of American lives, given that, he was more as a businessman. And by the way, as you may know, simultaneously while he was in office, he was still running his business, his Trump organization. It was passively taking part into it, and also his son-in-law, if I'm not mistaken, as well as his 2 sons were involved in the operation of it, getting advice from him. Allegedly, as I know, then again. Well, one thing is clear, that he was owning the company and he continues to own it today. So that goes along. Apparently he was more concerned about his business being in function, as well as those businesses as he held assets in those businesses functioning, so he went on and denying potentially. Long story short, March 13 of 2020 was the day that our country declared national emergency on the COVID pandemic. Just put in the numbers, that's about anywhere from 2 to 3 months, 2 months from when, roughly speaking, from the time that the World Health Organization declared pandemic, and also about 3 months from the time that China did. China is not a small country. Don't tell me you didn't see the message on the wall. And the World Health Organization, I'm hoping that people who are working with you, they have some communication with them, and they're able to, in our modern age, capture those Morse codes and pulses that come along to them. Now, one of the things that he did, as I said, was denial. So Washington Post has this video of him that you might be able to see, that 40 times throughout his term we went on live TV saying that it's going to go away. It's going to go away. It's just going to go away. In one of his interviews with this guy, the interviewer George, he said on saying, you know what, George, COVID is going to go away. It's going to go away even without the vaccine.
Now, the virus that we're talking about having to do, a lot of people think that goes away in April with the heat, as the heat comes in. Typically, that will go away in April. We're in great shape, though. I think that's a problem that's going to go away, but we lost almost 1,000 points yesterday on the market. This ends. This is going to end. Hopefully, it'll be sooner rather than later. When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to 0, that's a pretty good job we've done. It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear. And from our shores, it could get worse before it gets better. It could maybe go away. We'll see what happens. Nobody really knows. Last night, we did an interview on Fox last night, a town hall. I think it was very good. And I said, calm. You have to be calm. It'll go away. And it hit the world. And we're prepared, and we're doing a great job with it, and it will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. It goes away. It's going away. We want it to go away with very, very few deaths. It will go away. You know it is going away, and it will go away, and we're going to have a great victory. But I think what happens is it's going to go away. This is going to go away, and whether it comes back in a modified form in the fall, we'll be able to handle it. We'll be able to put out spurts, and we're very prepared to handle it.
Without a vaccine, sir, why do you think the virus will just be gone?
It's going to go. It's going to leave. It's going to be gone. It's going to be eradicated. Because, this virus is going to disappear. And it'll go away at some point. It'll go away. It may flare up and it may not flare up. We'll have to see what happens. And it is dying out. The numbers are starting to get very good. And we're doing so well after the plague. It's going away. I think that at some point that's going to sort of just disappear, I hope. I'll be right eventually. I will be right eventually. I said it's going to disappear. I'll say it again. It's going to disappear. And I'll be right. I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so. You know why it doesn't disappear? Because I've been right probably more than anybody else. I say it's going to disappear. And they say, oh, that's terrible. You say, well, it's true. It's going to disappear. Before it disappears, I think we can knock it out before it disappears. That's what I want.
Sir, you said in an interview this morning on the coronavirus, this thing's going away. It will go away like things go away, despite ongoing cases. Isn't that actually claim out of reality?
It's going away. No, it'll go away like things go away. Absolutely. It is going to disappear. It's going to disappear. I still say
if we don't take action, correct?
No, I still say it. It's going to disappear, George. It's probably going to go away now a lot faster because of the vaccine. It would go away without the vaccine, George, but it's going to go away a lot faster with it.
Go away without the vaccine?
Sure, over a period of time. Sure, with time. It goes
many deaths.
It's going to disappear. It is disappearing, and vaccines are going to help, and the therapeutics, it will go away. And as I say, we're rounding the turn. We're rounding the corner. It's going away. And a safe vaccine that eradicates the virus and quickly ends the pandemic. Normal life will fully resume. That's all we want. We want normal life. Normal life.
You just think about it. We're putting this guy in a position of a presidency. We're not just giving him some government random job on a city or state level. Folks, I want to pay attention. This is not a joke. At least you saw what he did in 2016. Maybe you can at least learn a lesson from the mistakes you did. What I'm seeing here is that, it's just extreme level of egregious approach. It's like you're blinded. People are not able. If you don't like Biden, I totally understand it. It's part of this plot, in my opinion, as well. It's a bipartisan plot to put a democracy of our country essentially on an auction up for sale for the highest bidder. At this time turns out to be Trump himself and the corporations that support him. The grandson of Carnegie Mellon, Timothy Mellon, just gave him $50 million donation. These people bend on their back to pay $1 in taxes, but they give $50 million donations. Don't think, if you're not thinking that they're hoping that they get a return on their investment, my friend, you're dead wrong. You better wake up. All right, so the other thing that he did was that essentially inciting violence against some of the state government officials that were trying to tighten the measures to try to avoid the tolls. Namely, it was the essentially the Michigan's governor, Gretchen Whitmer, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. There was a mob, armed who actually broke into the Michigan state office and she wanted to kidnap her and take her to Wisconsin for prosecution, to have her tried. I mean, you have to read his tweets, Trump's tweet where he says, "Liberate Michigan." Some other governors went on actually condemning his actions, how is it inciting violence against state legislators. So another thing that Trump failed to do was to what he could have done when Pfizer and Moderna, for instance, came up with the vaccine, was to get them to essentially share the formula, so other companies around our country and also globally, given the reciprocal impact that they have also on our health, to be able to take advantage of quickly developing the vaccine and distributing in their country so everybody would be safe reciprocally. Unfortunately, that's something that he failed. He preferred to take the tax money of Americans and give them to those companies who declared high amounts of returns of their investments and profits in course of the 2020 and 2021, while so many Americans had to file for bankruptcy and ended up losing their houses and became homeless. Now, the other thing that he also did is that he started waging coercion upon the FDA's as well as the CDC, Center for Disease. Some of the officials who came out and tried to tell him essentially he's going to the wrong direction. He wanted to get them sidelined, and he got them sidelined, and he actually wanted them to get fired. But apparently those people are still in their jobs, hoping they can finally pay the mortgage that were behind in COVID, and so they're still working there. Namely, he came up with this medication. This is very interesting. You really need to pay attention. He came up with this medication, if I'm saying it correctly, hydroxychloroquine. This is a medication that was developed in 1934 by the infamous Nazis, actually, to fight malaria. This is what he came up with. He listened to one of the Fox News anchors who says that this is some medication, and he thought that he can promote this. And these people, for instance, this lady, Nancy Messonnier, she went on criticizing him, and she got sidelined. And she was actually, ordered to be removed from further correspondence, CDC correspondences. Unbelievable. Essentially, while people are in CDC are trying to work their best, they're bent by politics. In words of some of these people, there was a great pressure. I have a paper, by the way, that I'm reading from. I wrote this article. I'd be happy to send it to you, at least if that's what you want to read. If you don't want to take my word for it, I have all the sources in this, and you can read it. And if anything's wrong, please come back to me. I'll bet you. So now, while the COVID was in progress, another tragic and quiet, I don't know what word I can use actually, repulsive approach that Trump had was to try to not let the detainees in our immigration detention centers to be reduced. He wanted them literally to die while alive there. These people were not able to access, soap and other sanitizing goods, given that average Americans didn't have them to begin with even. Some of them were just put on these chemical disinfectants that caused them burns and bleeding and death. By the way, in case you don't know, our detention centers have become reminiscent of the concentration camps of the Jews during the Nazi eras. We don't live in a developed countries, folks. We live in a third world country, under Trump at least. Biden's trying to have done the great things. He just recently, by the way, created a pathway to holding a green card and citizenship for illegal spouses of U.S. citizens. I think that's a great way of approaching this. On the contrary, Trump's approach is to completely go against anything have to do with giving immigrants an edge. And it's so fascinating, especially that you think that the mother of the very man, the wives of the very man, two of his wives, both Melania and Ivanka, or Ivana, I think Ivana is her correct name, they were immigrants. Apparently he's okay with them, apparently as long as they're blondes and beautiful, or they happen to be from Scotland as his mother's was, or his grandfather, he's just a second generation American essentially. His grandfather, had to come here I mean, I wonder if Germany back then was sending its best people to America. Obviously they weren't. You know, his grandfather couldn't get a job in Germany. He had to, you know, he couldn't be his best. So he had to come to America to find a job. Germany was not sending its best people to America. It was not sending you, and not you, and not you. Another thing that happened, he ignored the National Security Council's playbook. This is a playbook that was given out in case of emergency, national pandemic, for example, is that people had to review, and it's a set of algorithms that you have to go through in order to establish what needs to be done and in a second implement them. Seems like this is something that was just sitting somewhere in a corner and nobody even knew that it existed. The other thing that he did was to not letting United States corporations create masks, citing some Korean War act. He essentially, just like that, caused a massive shortage that could have saved millions of lives, and we had to import donated masks from China, the very China that Mr. Trump actually said they're the ones who are behind it. I don't know. I personally don't know. I'm not going to say anything. China has done a lot of bad things. I'm not even necessarily for them, but we don't still have any legal proof. So yeah, essentially, this is some of the disastrous things that he did, and still he has the audacity that to come back and try to run for presidency. I don't know, folks. If I were messing up so bad like that, at least I would do. I mean, he has no sense of shame. He has no guilt. He has nothing. Those things don't mean anything to him. Washington Post reported that roughly 300,000 times he lied during the 4 years of his presidency. In some days alone, he lied about 700 times maybe. Go look it up. I will send you my article. Anybody wants it, message me. I will send it to you. Please read it for yourself. See the man that you're thinking he's the one who's going to lead your country. I'm finally running for office. If you want to support me by your assistance, either as volunteer or financially, I would really appreciate it. All the links are in the description. My hope is nothing for myself, but to help make America great. Take care.